This is The Toss-Up, where we take a look at some of the topics facing the world of college sports and give a little bit of the history behind some of them. We're not trying to change your mind, we just want to dive deeper into the topics that keep you tuned in to the teams you love. College is a dynamic concept, but if you were to break it down into simple terms, college is where young adults prepare themselves for careers. This is no different for student athletes. Although a large percentage of student athletes will go pro in something other than sports, it's important to look at the rights of those who will. The NBA recently made rules changes to their declaration process, as an athlete can now declare for the draft without an agent, go through talent evaluations in the draft combine, and still return to school with their eligibility intact. With those changes, the NBA still isn't perfect. Many question the age minimum of draft eligibility. Some saying that allowing players to leave college after 1 year destroys the sanctity of their education. Others saying requiring athletes to go to school in the first place is unnecessary. Then there is the NFL, who requires athletes to be out of high school for at least 3 years, and even after those 3 years must request the league's approval to enter the draft early. Lastly, there is the MLB, which is the most liberal of all in the process. In the NBA, a player is eligible for selection if the player is a resident of the U.S. or Canada, and the player has never before signed a major league or minor league contract. That means high school players and college players. And if said players don't like the result of the draft, they have the right to not sign with a team and try again next year. So who does it right? Which draft process is the most fair and justified? Now let me introduce to you my panel. Alongside me, IU Athletics broadcaster Griffin Weinberg, IU STV baseball beat reporter Austin Machicardi, and IU STV sports director Jock Stevens. Now, looking at each of the individual sports, I think we should start off with the NBA. They recently made the rule change that you can test the waters before deciding to move on and go to the draft. Do you guys like that approach, or should it be expanded in any means, or what are your thoughts on the matter? And the sentiment about declaring for the draft, testing the waters, brings up another question about whether basketball players should be forced to go to college in the first place. It used to be that you could go straight out of high school. What are your thoughts on that, Jock?
Yeah,
Well, you know, one sport that does follow this concept is the MLB, and they're extremely liberal about how they handle things. You can enter the draft in high school, or you can go as a college athlete, and if you don't like where you're drafted or the team you're drafted by, you could just go back to whatever you were at. You could go back to school and continue to play where you were playing before. Do you guys like that process, or do you think it's a little too harmful to the actual teams? It'll be interesting to see if there are any changes in other leagues like the NBA, the NFL to model that, or maybe the MLB changes their way and models the NBA and the NFL.
I would hope not. I think that'd be terrible if the MLB were to change, in my personal opinion.
Anything is possible, but that'll really wrap us up as we're done with the show. And be sure to continue with the discussion on our Twitter page at IUSTV Sports and our Facebook page at IUSTV Sports. You can always give any suggestions for the show and ask any questions you might have. Toss it up. Find out if we'll catch it. Until next Sunday, be proud and cheer loud.